With no goal, don't be surprised if you end up nowhere. Great news, friends. I heard from Chris Warden of the Warden Brothers. He is the owner and CEO, president of TC 2000 and all the related brokerage services and such. He sent me a text message on Christmas Eve telling me that indeed Warden Brothers TC 2000 plans on having all of the cryptocurrencies listed there at TC 2000 in January. So I'm very excited to hear that. I will keep you guys posted as we move ahead. You know that I have devoted more and more of my energies to helping you chart crypto. I'm asking that he actually go ahead and start charting for us using something like CoinDesk somewhere where we have a reference to be able to chart the top 10 cryptocurrencies. I think that would be very helpful to us. We're doing that for our Patreon members. Of course, here every day we chart for you Bitcoin, and that is on the New York Times Bitcoin Index. Now, again, the way they do this at the New York Stock Exchange, sorry about that, the New York Stock Exchange Bitcoin Index, the way they do that is they go to various exchanges that they believe are giving them good numbers that meet the kind of requirements the New York Stock Exchange needs in order to verify price movement, and then they report it. So that's why that differs from things percentage-wise like the Bitcoin Grayscale, and of course, we also have BITO, we have BTF, and we have XBTF. Those are all Bitcoin futures. They move different than Bitcoin itself. Those are closed-end futures, short-term. So they do attempt to track Bitcoin, but they do move differently because it's not actually tracking the price of Bitcoin, it's tracking the futures, but should correspond as time goes along pretty accurately. So again, it should follow the direction. We'll put it that way. So we see everything up big for the day. The S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100. Bonds, well, I say bonds and gold aren't up all that much. Bitcoin up the most, 5.50. Let's jump first into the S&P 500. Look at it a-booming up 1 point. Oh, let me get off the post market and go to regular hours. There we go. Up 1.42%. And what do we see going on? Well, we have a big green candle moving up. We have the price percent oscillator starting the week off, trying to cross over, going up. Derivative oscillator, however, is still quite negative, so we'll pay close attention to that as we move along. But a big green up candle as we start this last trading week of the year. By the way, market is not closing early on Friday. Regular stock market, regular hours all the way through the 31st. They did take Christmas Day off, but they closed early. No, they took, sorry folks, I've been doing a lot of traveling. I'm a little worn down. They took Christmas Eve off. They're not taking New Year's Eve off. So that's the way we see things cranking up. Now, we look at this last 2-day candle that represented Thursday. And again, what was it? It was one of those 1-day, 2-day candles. What do I mean by that? That it only it's supposed to be a 2-day candle, but as you can see, it's only representing 1 day. We see this latest Monday candle is a new candle, and it's representing again, just Monday. It should finish drawing on Tuesday. It is trying to cross over, going up quite strongly. And again, we saw the way things were punching through on Thursday, and of course that is continuing as we see things move. Now, the good news is that derivative oscillator looks like it's trying to cross over too. It's at least gone at this point. We want to see that turn green if indeed this move continues on Tuesday. Remember, a candle's not drawn until it's finished. Occasionally we'll have weird market closures that'll cut those 2-day candles down to 1 day. We saw that happen, I want to say at Thanksgiving, but what do we see going on? Look at this half-day candles, all of them just moving, rocketing up. We saw things in the market most recently bottom out on Monday, morning and afternoon on Monday the 20th. And since then, we've just had day after day of nice, steady climbing right up that trend line, blowing through the 2-day and the weekly. Did that back on the 23rd. Now, those of you who well, it actually did it. It pierced it the first time on Wednesday, pushed on through it on Wednesday afternoon, pierced it in the morning on Wednesday, pushed through it in the afternoon on Wednesday. Those of you who are filling out your daily market worksheets, are you noting things like that so that you learn some of the nuances that how often when you see these piercings of both lines at the same time, do you see continued movement? Do you see rotations around in investor sentiment? Is that an early tell? If so, how accurate is that? So again, just important for you to watch. You can see where it happened last time and then what did it do? Cranked back over. What was different about this time? Again, pay attention to those things. Look at all the charts all the time. That's why we say it's so critically important that you be in the market every day, that you fill out those daily market worksheets once a week, the weekly market worksheet and the trade worksheet when you're doing a practice trade, if you want to learn the nuances of what's going on. And you know what I'll do at the end of today's training? As I do quite often, I'm going to put all 3 of the trainings on how to fill out those worksheets. Those of you who subscribe for free at chartingwealth.com, you know those worksheets are sent to you in a PDF form every single day in your show notes. If you're not a subscriber, go to chartingwealth.com, sign up for free. That list is never shared, never spammed. What do we see with the Qs? That is the NASDAQ 100 up even more, 1.65% for the day. Big green up candle, just blowing through that weekly trend line. Hasn't crossed over yet, though. Derivative oscillator still gaining some downward momentum. Go to the 2-day. Trying to cross over, hasn't done that yet. Derivative oscillator still negative. And we go to the half day, and again, we see several days of nice, strong up movement, but not enough to flip over the 2-day or the weekly yet. We'll see what happens at the close of business on Tuesday if we have a 2-day crossover. It's not a recross, it's going in the opposite direction of the weekly. It's what we would call a pullback. So we'll see what happens there. Now let's move on from stocks, go to bonds. Up 0.24% for the day. What do we see happening? Well, we see bonds starting the week off with a down candle. Now, these are Heiken Ashi candlesticks. Those you've taken that training, you know it's a little different than our typical training. I'm sorry. Those who've taken that training know it's a little different than the typical candlesticks. Heiken Ashi candlesticks, that means average pace in Japanese. It's not high open, low close. It is different. You can find our training if you look up Heiken Ashi, Heiken-ASHI. You will find it. It's the most popular training on the web on Heiken Ashi candlesticks. You'll find it very helpful. As the week starts, not a crossover going down yet. Again, second week of weakness showing up. Derivative oscillator still green but losing upward momentum. 2-day, of course, that crossed over going down back on Wednesday. And we see things continuing to just move down that trend line. First day of this latest 2-day candle, price percent oscillator and derivative oscillator heading down. What do we see on the half day? Well, we see where things just sort of mellowed out, up a little bit on the half day. Derivative oscillator still negative, moving up. Price losing downward momentum. Price percent oscillator is about flat. So again, keep an eye on things as we move along. Overall, we can see that, losing some momentum there. Hasn't crossed over going down yet, but that 2-day is heading down. Now we look at gold, up 0.24%. Going to the second week of some up movement in gold, bouncing off. Well, not quite bouncing off. Didn't quite hit the red signal line, but moving away from it now. However, what's pesky is that derivative oscillators still negative. We do have a green up candle, not a lot of up movement for the day, 0.24%. I think when I gave you that number earlier, I was probably looking at the post-market. I was looking at post-market. Post-market's 0.20. but regular hours point to 4. So I do want to tell y'all what I'm talking about. You can't see that portion of the screen, but if you're a subscriber to TC2000, the beautiful thing is you can see regular hours and you can see pre and post market movement, which is very important. I find that many of my trades close because I always do a good till canceled sell order pre and post market. Many of those close out successfully either before the market opens officially or after it closes, because there's still movement, there's still clearing trades. And so I always put in a good till canceled sell order the minute I enter the trade. You all know that I didn't do that on Whirlpool recently. I did it later, and I missed the first opportunity to cash out at 2% up and out. It later moved back in the right direction, and I did that too. But so as we look at gold, we can see that 2-day trying to move up. Of course, now that this latest candle has officially closed because it was actually a 1-day, 2-day candle, we're going to go ahead and note that we do have we talked about this potentially being a recross. Of course, at this date, I would still be a little careful. Why? Because you can tell where we are in this movement that the weekly has not crossed back over yet. I'm still concerned about that. But we'll watch and see how this 2-day recross continues to perform. And again, depending on how good you feel about what gold's doing, you could see how this candle finishes drawing on Tuesday and maybe consider moving along with that 2-day crossover. It didn't give you much of an opportunity to do that on Thursday, but you might look at doing it. It's a little late. I don't typically recommend that, but really keep an eye on what's happening with this derivative oscillator on the weekly. We look at the half day. What do we see? Up in the morning, hit its high, and then in the afternoon, not quite touching that high again, but again, and a smaller candle. So you can see where the acceleration is slowing, which again might be of concern. Prices above the, let me just move. I'll try to update our trend line a little bit. Things are, continuing to move up. Prices above the 2-day on the half day. So we'll continue to watch and see how gold goes. I'm ready for it to take off again and just smash things. What about Bitcoin? Well, this is nice to see. Bitcoin starting to draw a green up candle for the first time in many weeks. The last time we saw that was back in mid-November, November 12 to be exact. We had a weekly candle that was green. This week starting off with a green up candle doesn't mean it's time to jump into Bitcoin. You can see the derivative oscillator is about flat. Price percent oscillator still heading down a little bit now this 2-day. It hasn't crossed over yet either, but it's trying to move up. And as we move into the second green up candle, that's nice to see on the 2-day. We can see where things bottomed out. I hope Bitcoin's going to take off again. Going to wait and see if we get a 2-day crossover going up. That could be the portend to things changing in the Bitcoin world. And as we look at this price point, I'm screwing up my trend lines. As we look at this price point, where did Bitcoin hit before? I'm just sort of looking to see, not really finding anything in the universe there lately. Let's see if there's anything on the weekly that gives us any kind of base or bottom. I'm just not seeing it there. And on the half day, are we seeing anything back in time that is telling us that we might have some kind of, well, no. No, not really. So anyway, we'll continue to look. When we look at the half day, of course, we can see how it has just been moving up nicely. I'm going to redraw this trend line since I screwed it up. And we'll get it redrawn there. And again, we'll continue to watch and see if Bitcoin is indeed bottoming out and getting ready to take off again, up for the day, 5.50%. But you guys know that's nothing for Bitcoin. It can be down 8 or 10% in a day. So we'll continue to watch, wait and see, get some good signs on it, whether it's taking off. that's where we are, folks. Hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. I'm glad to announce that news that hopefully we're going to get some cryptocurrencies to chart. You guys know how accurate our Bitcoin charts have been. I want you to have accurate charts for the top 10 cryptocurrencies. Wouldn't that be exciting? And we'll see how chartable indeed they are once we get them. That's where we are, folks. As we end the day, of course, we appreciate our Patreon supporters. God bless my friends. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.